Welcome to TriTech University. My name is Bill Steppen, and today we're going to dive once more into the wonderful world of accounting. And we're going to be taking a look at the department function of AIM. The department function is something that allows you to further divvy up your income statements so that you can compare and contrast different parts of your business and find out which ones are more profitable than others, or just make sure that they are pulling their own weight. As always, we got some house rules to just kind of get us acquainted. If this is your first TriTech live stream, welcome. Over on the right-hand side of the screen, there is a chat tab. And on that chat tab, you can use the nickname button down at the bottom to log in with your name. And from there, you will be able to say hi to me, to ask any questions that you have regarding today's content. And by all means, anyone who is attending today's broadcast live, they can chat with each other. They can share tips and tricks about maybe how they're using departments in their store and just kind of things like that. So yeah, if you are here, once again, welcome. If this is your 15th broadcast, once again, welcome. We're happy to have you here. So, like always, let's go ahead and switch over to my AIM broadcast test area here. So, with TriTech University, I haven't actually done any upfront setup this time. I wanted to really take the time to go through the process start to finish here with you. So once again, the whole idea with accounting and bookkeeping is that you can run your financial reports to give to your bookkeeper, to your CPA, and to get your profit and loss, to see, just make sure there's money in the bank, and so on and so forth. But with departments, you can take that to the next level, and you can really start to then compare and contrast, like I kind of mentioned in the introduction, one part of your business versus another part of your business versus the third part of your business, or however many different departments you have and want to track. Now, for those of you who have been attending these types of broadcasts in the past, you might be aware that my particular implementation of this TriTech system, this AIM system, is one that is kind of multi-industrial. So I know that we cater to music stores and bike stores and firearm stores and hobby stores and golf pro shops and all sorts of different environments. And I've taken that to the level where I have all of those kind of set up as their own unique categories, again, just to kind of keep the waters afloat and have something that hopefully everyone can relate to here. Now, what departments allows you to do is, as you may know, each one of these links to various ledger accounts, and you could certainly just look at the income statements and see what the raw numbers are for each category and so forth. But what if you wanted to see very easily what the numbers were from one part of the business to the other? Well, that's where departments come in. Excuse me. So, with departments, the first thing you want to do is set up the departments themselves. And you can do that by going to Maintenance and Ledger and then clicking right here to where it says Add or Change Departments. Now, when you set up a department or more, you're going to give it basically a code, and then you're going to give it a description. So I've just got a few examples here that I'll be using. The first one I'll use is very straightforward. We'll call this Music. And I will hit save on that. Let's go ahead and add a second one, and we're going to call this Sporting Goods, and I'll save that. I'll add a third one here, and we'll call it Household. Get that out of the way so you can see what I'm typing. And then last but not least, I'll add a fourth one, and we'll call it Hobby, just to kind of give some ideas there. So let's say, for example, you are not a store such as mine that kind of caters to everything under the sun. Maybe you are strictly a music store. Maybe you're a full-line music store, and you have a combo department, and you have a band and orchestra department, and you have a professional audio, a pro audio department, and you have all of these different areas of your business. You can set them up literally as departments here in the Add Change Departments area. Maybe you're not a music store. Maybe you are a firearm store. Maybe you want to have departments for firearms, ammunition, camping and outdoors, hunting, just kind of those different things that you might want to, again, be able to look at an income statement or a report and see, again, the idea behind how one area of the business is doing versus another. Maybe you are a bike and fitness store. You could have a departments category for for bicycles, for accessories, for home fitness, for free weights. You don't necessarily need to limit yourself to the categories, though. You might want to have departments for other things such as repair and service and things of that nature. This goes above and beyond just the categories themselves, and I'll show you what I mean by that in just a moment. Now, once you set up category or departments, I'm getting myself combobulated. Once you do set up departments, you are going to want to make sure that you associate those departments with all of the ledger accounts that are on your income statement. And if you're using our standard or kind of our default chart of accounts, that's going to be all of the ledger numbers that are starting at 400 and going up from there. So you'll notice if we kind of scroll through here, and I'm just going to kind of click on a line item here or there, notice how this department drop down is grayed out. But as soon as I get down to the 400s and up, so you can kind of see as soon as I get to 411, boom, this is now a drop down that is available. You'll notice that all of the departments that I indicated from the previous step are here. So in this case, sales of band instruments, I would associate that with my music department, and same thing for sale of bike accessories. I would go ahead and I would associate that with music. If I go down to sales guitars, I would associate that with music, and sale of guitar accessories, I would associate that with music. If I go back up here to, where did I leave off? Sale of bike, that's bike accessories, not band accessories. So that actually I'm going to call sporting goods. Sales of golf clubs, I'm going to call sporting goods. Sales of golf accessories, I would call sporting goods. Basically, you're going to want to make sure that every single one of these ledger accounts, starting at whatever is 400 and working your way up, is associated with a department. And that leads me to the next function that you'll want to take a look at, which is what we call department allocation tables. Now, I'm going to set the scene before we talk about what a department allocation table is. Let's keep going down the line and get past just kind of what we would call our baseline inventory categories. Let's say we get down to past the 400s and we get into the 500s. So these 500 ledger accounts are non-inventory accounts. And for example, we've got contract income, we've got contract collection fees, we've got interest on contracts. Maybe all of my contracts are associated with music related functions, and so I would go ahead and I would associate those with music. But let's say we get to something like the service labor. Maybe my service labor is kind of a mishmash of all of these departments, and of course, with this being a drop down, I can only pick one of whatever is on this list. That's where department allocation tables can come into play. Now, what a department allocation table is, if we go back and look at the ledger maintenance area here, you'll notice right below add or change departments is maintain department allocation tables. A department allocation table allows us to set up a percentage ratio of two or more departments that should share the activity to that particular area of ledger. And I've got a couple of examples I want to set up here. First of all, let's go ahead and hit add, and let's talk about repair and service. And we'll go ahead and then the allocation table. Let's say that I might know that typically my repairs are, when it comes to the music industry, let's say I might just know that about 50% of my service activity is done from music related activities. So I can hit save on that. Notice how as soon as I hit save on that, this number started at 100% and it's going down. I'm going to add another one, and let's say that I do a fair amount of repair on hobby stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and say that that one is going to be 25%. And then I'm going to add a third one, and let's say that the remaining, not the remaining, but let's say another 17% is the sporting goods, and then the remaining 8% is going to be what's left over. Sporting goods, no, household. So we'll go ahead and put that in there. And then what I can do with that is go ahead and save that. And that allows me to now have an allocation table that I can use for whenever I have activity to that. It will take the ledger amount of the journal entry and split it those 4 ways in this case. I'm going to go ahead and add a second one, and I'm going to call this electrical. If I get into the description field. And knowing about my obviously virtual and fake Tritech Emporium, Tritech Professor's House of Stuff. I forget what I called my fake store here. But if I think about my floor, my show floor, let's say that as far as the electrical bill is concerned, I have let's say 40% of my, well, let's say 30% of my floor space to music related stuff, and another 15% for sporting goods, and another 5%, let's say 10% for hobby, and the remaining 45% is going to be household, because that's going to be things like vacuums and furniture and appliances, and takes up a lot of floor space. So we'll just go ahead and put that in there. So basically now I've got an allocation table. Once again, it equals to 100%, and I've got a different arrangement of percentages for that. So then I can hit save on that. So then when we go back to the chart of accounts here, and I get down to, let's say, the 500s, so we get to service labor, you'll notice that in addition to just the straight line department options, I now have the allocation tables that I can pick from. Let's go ahead and pick repair and service and hit save on that. And then, of course, I could do the same thing for basically any of these other ones. And then just to get down to, let's say, for example, utilities, from an expense perspective, I'm going to go ahead and put in electrical into there. Now, I would probably have a different breakdown for the utilities at the ledger level. I might actually rename my 6061 from just generic utilities to electrical, and I might have a 606-2 for HVAC, or 606-3 for plumbing, or just all of these other utilities that I could set up different allocation tables for different percentages of the shared revenues, and in this case, the shared expenses. So you'll want to make sure that you do set up all of the 400, 500, and 600 ledger accounts. Again, if you are using the default ledger layout here, that would be what we would anticipate you having. You'll also notice that there are some 700 accounts here that also do have department dropdowns, but the 700 typically, because they're set up as non-operating, they would never show on your income statement and other reports like that. So you can pretty much ignore those. If you are using your own completely customized chart of accounts, then you'll just want to talk with whoever set up your bookkeeping, your chart, to determine which accounts should actually be associated with departments. So once you've got that set up, then any ledger activity that hits those accounts by default will then in turn affect those departments by extension. There are some scenarios where you can tweak that on a transaction by transaction basis. So for example, let's say you are putting in an AP invoice, and we'll just keep it simple. Let's go ahead and select the Acme Wholesalers, and we'll notice, I'm just going to skip straight to the expense tab. You'll notice that excuse me, department is a drop down on the expense side of things. So if you are making an expense to, let's say, I don't know why you would be expensing the 606-1 utilities here, but if you were, well, I guess you technically could be expensing utilities if this were not Acme Wholesalers. If this were like the electrical bill that you were getting, you could make a selection here, and you could actually make an adjustment to the department. So it would use either a different department code or a different department allocation table for the purposes of splitting up that amount. So if it was $100 that you were getting charged for utilities, and you then used this, if I remember correctly, I had said that 45% of that was going to the household department, and 15% was to music, or whatever it was that I said. So by extension of that amount that I'm expensing to that ledger account, those different amounts are being proportioned to the different departments. Let me know if that makes sense. It's hopefully pretty straightforward, but we are kind of several layers down the rabbit hole here, so I just want to make sure that that is making sense. That's one area where you can tweak the department on the fly. The other area, just that I can think of off the top of my head, is journal entries themselves. If you are making raw journal entries, anytime you are posting to a 400 account or up, you'll be able to then make a selection for the department. And it's important to realize that if you have departments created, you will always need to make sure that you pick a department or department allocation table when posting journal entries to the 400 and up ledger accounts. You'll notice if I leave department blank and I just go ahead and kind of put something in here, you'll notice it comes up and says you can't leave the department drop down blank. You have to pick something. So just kind of keep that in mind. If you are going in with departments, you have to go all in. You can't just stick your toe in the water and then pull it back out. I guess you could if you just delete the departments out without making any associations. But once you tread down the path of departments, it will forever dominate your destiny. So just kind of keep that in mind. Now, with all of that set up, then it comes time to be able to reap the benefits of all of that setup, and that is the reporting element. So when you go to run your ledger reports, specifically your income statement reports, you'll be able to select a department. Now, if you don't make a selection by department and you just run the income statement as is, you will get however many different departments you have set up their own each individual income statement. So if I just did this for, let's say, 1/1 through today, I would get 4 different income statements, one for the music department, one for the sporting goods department, one for household, one for hobby. And of course, I just force-fed these in there, so technically right now there wouldn't be anything to them because all of my previous activity has no departments associated. So that is another thing that you'll want to bear in mind, is the best time to create and start to use departments is at the beginning of a fiscal period. So prior to that particular date, you would have then cleared out and closed out your ledger, so that then going forward, you can start to take advantage of departments. Notice that the allocation tables are not here because the allocation tables are simply referencing one or two or more of those departments. They don't always have to be a split of all of the departments. It's just whatever departments make sense in that respect. If you want to get your traditional, what I'll call traditional income statement, you can always check mark the option here to consolidate departments, and that way it'll take all of that ledger activity and it'll just put it onto one individual income statement, regardless of which departments that activity is associated with. So that's the basic idea of departments. Hopefully that makes sense. And if there's any questions, by all means, definitely let me know over in the chat tab. Or if you are checking this out afterwards, then if you have questions, definitely reach out to us over in the technical support side of things. Or if you'd like individual one-on-one training with myself, definitely we've got that available as well. So yeah, just let us know however we can help you make the most out of your software investment and your service investment and your trust and loyalty in our software solutions, and we'll do whatever we can to make sure that it's all making sense and that you are getting the most bang for your buck, as it were. So with that in mind, that kind of wraps up today's session. Looking at the calendar, I have 2 live streams coming up again in March, one on the Tuesday the 14th, one on Tuesday the 28th, since typically March and February kind of line up that same way. So I do not yet have those finalized, as you can probably tell over here to the right if you just look at the schedule tab. I believe it's called the playlist tab. They're all to be determined. So if you have any suggestions, definitely leave those up in the poll tab or the poll screen here at TriTech University. They've got a lot of great suggestions there already, such as going through the latest update notes and finding what are all the new features that we can check out and perhaps have demonstrations of. So I'll probably be doing that as one of the March live stream sessions, to go through, let's say, the most flashy or newest functions from March, maybe even back into February, depending on how many new things we have that I think would be worth sharing. And I also do intend to go over some more mobile functions, such as the mobile service ticket and how that ties into the service ticket functions of the AIM software. So we'll be checking that out probably as one of the other sessions here in March as well. But if there's any other ideas, or you'd like to check out the previous ideas, go to that poll area and review the listings that are already there, the suggestions of topics, and feel free to add any that you would like to see be talked about here at TriTech University. We'll be always taking those as the highest priority of topics, because those are obviously the things that you like to hear. So with that being said, thank you so much for attending. Thank you so much for your continued trust in our products and services. We don't take that for granted. We would not be here if it weren't for your going on 40 years of support. I believe this is the 39th year of TriTech, come, I believe, September or so. So coming up on 40 years of being in the industry, which is awesome. And we couldn't be here without your support. So thank you so much. And if nothing else, we'll see you in March. Take care, and I hope you have a good one.